From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, fired up and ready to go. Where are you today? Because it is great to have you here. You have reached the Badass Counseling Show, and I am the host of this show, Sven Erlandson. Whether you are checking in from Switzerland or Hanover, Pennsylvania, whether we find you reaching us from Indianapolis or Idaho, Los Angeles, or way down under New Zealand, it's just wonderful to have you here joining us. This is one of our lightning round episodes. These are our Sunday episodes that we put out on Sundays. They're available all the time. We have a full backlog of hundreds of episodes. And our Sunday episodes are where we answer listener questions. They're our lightning rounds. Our Thursday episodes are counseling episodes. On the rare occasion, we interview a guest. However, this is the lightning round, so I'm here to take your questions. And we've got folks checking in from around the world, and it's really neat having you all here. So I think before we do that, I want to check in. Rob, how are you today?
I'm good. I love checking people in before we start. And you know, folks out there, Sven doesn't just make up these places. These are people that have actually checked in, and they're getting ready to feed us their questions on social media live. And we record it, and that becomes the podcast that you are listening to now.
That's right. So when I say that, hey, from Dortmund, Germany, we literally have someone right this second joining us from Dortmund, and so forth. And so all of these questions are real, and Rob the Rocket later edits and synthesizes and masters all of this, and then it goes out on Sunday. And I've got Casey over in the booth. She is doing Overwatch, making sure we are not touching ourselves in strange places with a fork. All right. Yeah.
Today.
All right. So first one we've got is coming at us from Amanda on TikTok, and it's actually not stated as a question. She states it as a statement, but it elicits questions. And Amanda says, "My absent dad was not my enemy. It was my abusive mom." Okay, no question there. But making a statement, and the mere fact that you make that statement publicly says that you're open to conversation on it, else you wouldn't have done it. What is often interesting, and this is an open door for me, what is often interesting in my work with clients is I'm reminded of the Sherlock Holmes story. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story. It's not the point. I don't know if you've ever read Sherlock Holmes short stories, but one of them that we got growing up as a kid was the story of Silver Blaze. And Silver Blaze was this prize racehorse in England, and it got stolen from the studios. Of course, it's all fiction. It's Sherlock Holmes, right? And so they bring in Sherlock Holmes because this horse is worth thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, right? And they bring him in, and he does all his investigation, and it doesn't fully reveal who stole it, except Sherlock Holmes figures it out because there's one piece of information. We actually get a phrase in modern English from this story of Silver Blaze, of the stolen prize racehorse. And basically what he discovers, it's also known as the curious case of the dog in the night that didn't bark, or the dog that didn't bark in the night. There was a stable dog. And when the horse was stolen, the dog never barked. Nobody heard the dog barking to alert people, hey, come running, somebody's in the stable that doesn't belong here. And Sherlock Holmes deduced if the stable dog, whose job it is to bark and alert people, wasn't barking, that meant that whoever stole the horse knew the dog, and the dog knew the horse, knew the person stealing it. They figured out it was the trainer. They nabbed him. Aha, here he comes to save the day. Sherlock Holmes is the hero once again. What's the point? We have a phrase in English called the dog that didn't bark. Whenever I'm counseling someone or reading someone's autobiography, which I require of all clients, 10 pages or less, they have to submit it to me before we ever start counseling. I study it beforehand. I don't charge for that. That's my show of good faith to our process. Usually it takes me a couple hours to really study it. I'm not just looking for what's there. I'm looking for what's not there. The dog that didn't bark. So when I get a client presenting to me, or someone that talks to me, bends my ear on the street corner, or in a situation like this, and you tell me that, you know, my beef isn't with my dad, it's with my mom, who, you know, I had my real issue. My dad basically wasn't there. You know, he was sort of non-existent, you know, sort of absent-ish. And that's where my real beef is. My brain goes to, and we dive down in our hours together, what's really going on. And what do we know? Amanda says, my absent dad was not my enemy. It was my abusive mom. On the surface, that presents itself as absolutely true. It's the abusive parent that is the real enemy. But all that other parent has to do is just to be slightly less bad than the abusive or the really bad or the critical, the hypercritical parent. As long as the other one is a little less bad, or as long as the other one gives you a hug now and then, you feel safe with that one, or safer. They're just not quite as bad, so you never think to look there. It's the dog that didn't bark. But here's the problem. And Amanda, I believe you. I'm not disputing that your mother was abusive at all. I am not disputing that that was horrible at all. It's terrible. The long-term impact on a child who is abused by a parent, a mother, father, whatever, grandparent, whoever raised you, is profound. It can be healed, and then the healing does not have to take a long time, Amanda. However, what I have found in my work with my clients, it's the work that we do on the other parent that often yields the greatest healing. Why? Well, you're saying to me, well, Sven, my dad was absent. All right. There's no real crime. Sure, there's absent and fear of abandonment, all that, but there's no real crime. Oh, yeah? I would offer that on one hand, he committed the greater crime. To which someone would say, well, how the fuck can that be, old man? And I say this, what's the number one job of a parent? The very first job before food, water, and shelter, protection. Protection. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what is the first need of humanity, of the human animal? It is not food, water, or shelter. It is warmth. But what is warmth from? From cold. So it's protection from cold. That if you leave that baby unexposed, or leave that baby exposed to the elements, it will die overnight. If you do not protect from the cold, from the wolves outside the door, from the boys in junior high trying to get in your daughter's pants, or it's the opposite nowadays, I guess, from what I understand. But the point is that the parent has the obligation to protect that child against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and your father didn't do job one. You want to impact the child's soul for the rest of their lives? Their feelings of not feeling safe? You want to impact their relationships negatively? Make them feel like they're not safe. Not just with the person overtly doing it, but they don't feel protected, let's say in this case with Amanda, by men. Wow, what a crime he committed. By walking away, he left his child unprotected. So what's the point? There are immense feelings and fear and that grow inside of a child, and then that impacts every single decision made. So I do not dispute that your enemy was your abusive mom. I am not disputing that, Amanda. But I think where you may uncover the greatest healing is going into what the fuck, the real shit that may be buried down deep about the real feelings over dad walking away, fundamentally saying, fuck you, you don't matter, and leaving you unprotected to face the monster that was your mom. Next question. Right. Kier, also on TikTok, says, Sven, I'm working through your books and trying to figure out how to stop feeling the need to yell at my dad. Forgive me for asking the obvious question, but why stop? I always tell my clients, I don't need you to confront your living, breathing parent in order to heal you. I don't need you to go and confront them or yell at them or cry or ask them to, give you their approval or anything like that. I don't need you to ever have a confrontation of any sort with your living, breathing parent. I do need you, however, to confront the parent of your childhood that is inside of you. And so when you say, Kier, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, when you say, I'm working through your books and trying to figure out how to stop feeling the need to yell at my dad, you have the need. You feel the need. Why not allow yourself to yell at your dad, not the living, breathing dad who lives, in 30 miles away or down the street or whatever, or maybe he's deceased. No, I'm talking about what that need to yell at your dad is. That's the voice of your childhood, your teenage years, whatever years, wanting to yell at him for whatever it is that he did that hurt you then or is hurting you now. Why would you neglect yourself, the very feeling that is naturally rising up? Folks, your feelings are your natural responses to life's stimuli. Something happens and your body has a natural response to purge that energy. So if I'm out mending fences on my property and I hit my thumb with a hammer, Paul and Leslie, fucking half mile up the road, are going to hear me yelling bloody murder in every swear word in the book. And I'm going to be feeling so much rage. Wow, a couple of tears are running down my cheek because it hurts like hell. And I'm frustrated because it's the 4th time this month I've done it because I'm an idiot. So I'm feeling rage and frustration and sadness all at one time. Those are natural responses. But believe it or not, I have clients who weren't allowed when with their father or their hard-ass mother to cry if they hit their thumb with a hammer. So they had to choke all that shit down. Well, that's got to come out at some point. Why? Because until it's out of you, that pain is still in you. And so, Keir, when you say I'm working through your books, trying to figure out how to stop feeling the need to yell at my dad, let it out in your journaling. Write your dad a letter that you do not send. It has to come out. It's your body trying to purge the pain and the rage and the anger and the sorrow that's been in there the entire time. Get it the fuck out. It's almost like, do you feel guilty? Like you're a bad daughter or something? No, it's a natural human response. Allow yourself to be what you are, who you are, feel what you feel. But very often when we're children, we're taught, no, your feelings aren't important. You don't matter. You don't get to have feelings. All that matters is mom and dad are good and they love you and you can't have any feelings. Fuck that shit. You're a grown-ass fucking adult. Give yourself permission to purge the pain of that 7-year-old girl, of that 11-year-old girl. Get it out. Why? Just keep flushing out. Why? Because peace follows in its wake. Keep doing it. All right. Next question. Here we go. I've got Elijah Rector. Great name. Love that name. Elijah Rector. Of course, a rector is a pastor. It doesn't mean you are one. It just means that's your last name. Cool name. It's like a sports name, rector. I love that. That's strong. Anyway, riffing. Had to step away from someone who showed addiction traits and cycle repeatedly after saying they wouldn't do such things again. I feel it's for the best, but also feel like I left them at a low moment in their life. Is it bad to leave someone like that? Well, this is an interesting question. Rob, any thoughts on that one? Did you catch it?
I did hear the question.
Yeah, I had to step away from someone who showed addiction traits and cycle. And
I understand the remorse. Yeah, for sure.
I feel it's for the best, but also feel like I left them at a low moment in their life. Is it bad to leave someone like that at a low moment in their life?
You know, you have to take care of yourself. It just depends on the effect it is having on you, I think.
Yeah.
Or you can make a decision.
Yeah. And there are different low moments. I mean, if someone just got the news that day that their daughter has to go in for her 3rd surgery at 7 years old, you might want to wait a week. So you're still in the era of, I know I need to do it. But shit, if you've waited all these weeks or months leading up to the conversation, I'm sure you can wait one more week if she just got the news today or if he just got the news today. So it doesn't have to be exactly today. But in the end, you have to honor the calling of your soul. And the truth is, if they are at a low moment in their life, and clearly they are getting sucked back down into their addictive traits, they'll take you with them. They will take you with them. And what do lifeguards learn? When you're going out to save someone, if you do not take control of that situation, that drowning person will shove you down to try to lift themselves up. They will take you down with them. But there is naturally guilt if someone's struggling and then we walk away to save ourselves. You got to do what you got to do. Now, you don't have to be a dick about it. I think that's sort of implied. I don't think you need me to tell you that, but I'm saying it anyway. You don't have to be a dick in how you do it, but if you need to do it, you need to do it. And that's part of life. You know, it's like in business. If you run a business and you have to let someone go, or you run it, you got a vendor you've been using and you end the relationship. It sucks. You've had a relationship, but that's part of business. Part of being in relationships is the understanding that this relationship may end.
Sven, I like the lifeguard analogy. Perhaps if you feel like it's a matter of your own survival, that would be the time that you would need to go.
Yeah. And you don't even have to wait till it gets that bad. I do see your point. And hopefully we get better and better at catching it sooner, because we know if I don't act on it sooner, it will get to the point where it's like, holy shit, I'm at the point of survival. So the goal is to begin to read my own signs sooner. But yes, because I know it's going to be at survival level then. That's a good point, Rob. Okay.
Got a personal question about you here I think you might like.
Go ahead. Someone's asking a personal question up on YouTube. Go ahead.
With general implications, of course. But Millie Bruce says, Sven, you've mentioned about your decision to make changes in your life when you were bleeding from your suicide attempt.
Yeah.
But what exactly in those moments made you change your mind and want to live?
Yeah. So as most of you may or may not know, I was in a 12-year suicidal depression. This is about 25 years ago. It started about 35 years ago, and then I'm 57, and then I committed suicide in 2001, and then I came out of it a couple years later, but fully several years later. And so all told, it was probably more than 12 years, but brain gets a little foggy after time. Anyway, so I'd slipped my wrist. I was at the foot of the Berkeley Pier in Berkeley, California. I had been living in LA, but I had previously gone to seminary up in Berkeley. So I drove up there and parked and opened up my arms, slipped my wrists, my forearms quite a ways up. Scars are still there. And I was listening to music and I was journaling. Go figure, right? Journaling, Sven, great, journaling. And I bled for about 45 minutes, and 45 minutes becoming an hour, and I start just sort of laughing, and not lightheaded laughing, just laughing. It's just like, okay, we're working on an hour here, and I'm not dead yet. There's blood fucking everywhere. I'm sorry to be gruesome, but you asked, all right? And let's be honest, a lot of folks listening to our show and have suicidal thoughts. And I believe in talking about it. I'm sorry, I just fucking do. Having been there and having counseled so many suicidal people over the years, I'm not afraid to talk about it. And so for me, it was that. And but I had the thought, I'm not dying yet. Well, and here's my thought process. Swear to God, you asked the question. It was Millie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Millie, this was the exact thought process. I'm journaling in the moment. And while I'm journaling, and then I look at the clock in my car and I realize, it's been 45 minutes going on an hour and I'm not dying. I'm not dead. There's a lot of blood. And I'm journaling. Journaling literally saved my life. And I realized, well, I don't really want to die. That was a moment of honesty. And then the very next thing after that was, well, shit, if I want to live, I'm going to have to choose differently. That was it. That was literally the entire self-conversation. There was no profound opening of the sky. There was no anything. It was just those very simple realizations and that notion of choosing differently, that having gone to that point, that end point, and realizing, Sven, if you want a different life, you got to choose differently. And being at that end point of life gave me the permission to choose differently, which meant that I could choose me, because I had been an extreme giver for most of my life. I seem wild and obnoxious and all this, but I have always been an extreme giver to my own personal detriment. And then I began to honor self as well as still enjoy giving. And I did, deconstructed myself more and more. And anyway, that was the thought process and it saved me. And then I really dove even further into my own self-work. And within a few years, I was out of it. And I was coming out of it already, but I really began to change my decisions and life turned around. So for those of you who are at that process, think about that. I am living, walking proof that, there's a hell of a life. And I know you may think life is so bad. I have been where you are for different reasons, but I have been where you are. Fact. And I had to get myself out of it. I could not find a therapist who would help me. I'd go into therapy and, because of my own self-work, my own journaling, I was always 10 questions ahead, not because I'm some brainiac. It had nothing to do with brains. I just fucking did the work. I journaled on my own. And so I got to do this on my own. And I read in those 12 years plus, I read over 1,000 books. Self-help, theology, philosophy, spirituality, new age, science, everything, you name it. And I just created my own way out. And that way out I had already been counseling for a number of years, but that became the backbone of my work, the Badass Counseling Method. And so that's when I'm talking to you guys or when I'm in session with a client, every single thing that I recommend, I have personally tried and likely still use in my own life. And I've been using it with hundreds, if not thousands. Well, it is thousands of clients over the years. And so when we're talking about this end of life discussion of suicide, I've counseled more people in that situation than I could ever begin to count. And I'd like to say I have a pretty high success rate, very high success rate. All right. All right. Next question.
Because you've been there.
Well, but you know what? And thank you for bringing that up, Rob. It's important to understand something. When I was young, I prayed. When I was 21, I prayed for two things back when I still was heavy in my faith and all that. And I said, I just want two things. One, the person who will be with me forever. And two, wisdom. Well, I got the person who will be with me forever, and she's my ex-wife, and we're forever together because we have two wonderful children together who now have two wonderful wives, right? Not each, just collectively. And so I got that. So be a little more specific in your prayers, people. But then I also prayed for wisdom. And if you ever want to pray for the wrong thing, pray for wisdom. Do you want to know why? Because you can only have wisdom. You can have an opinion without knowledge. You can have you can have an opinion without knowledge. You can have knowledge without wisdom. Okay? But to have wisdom requires two things: pain and reflection on that pain. It's not the experience itself. So my having had those experiences of end of life stuff wasn't enough to really glean, to extract the wisdom from the experience. Requires going into it and sort of experiencing it again, thinking about it, feeling it, asking it the questions. What are you sent to teach me about life, about self? All right, so it's the pain and the reflection that goes with it, the deep questions, and then the answers that go with it. And more of your questions right after this short break.
And the break will include a little discussion we can have about Community Plus, which is a great way to find some wisdom.
Yeah, Community Plus is our intimate subscription-based community on Badass Counseling website. It's called Community Plus. We have a group of about 46,000 people on the Badass Counseling group on Facebook. And so many of them were saying, hey, can we just have something that's level up? For those of us who want more, for those of us who have already read the book and are knee deep in self-help and just really believe in it. And we just want more, tighter sense of community and more resources, greater access to you, Sven. And so my team created Community Plus. If you're ready for it, it's a monthly fee. It's not totally cheap, but it's a reasonable price considering all the free stuff that comes with it, including direct access to me twice a month, drawings for small group counseling with me, drawings for one-on-one counseling with me, access to our top-selling do-it-yourself video courses, et cetera, et cetera. It's Community Plus on badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back, and we've got a bunch of questions queued up here. I've got one from Mandy on TikTok. Mandy says, how do you know if your partner is the one for you or not? I love that question, and that is one that every single one of us has asked ourselves at one point or another in life. And my response is, the problem with the question, while it's totally a great question, Mandy, the problem with the question is that it's a once and for all decision. It's not. It's an everyday decision. You re-choose your partner every day. Even if you've made the commitment of marriage in a ceremony and so forth, you still have to recommit every day. And the way you know each day is, I like this old saying. One of my sponsors when I was a cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy was a guy by the name of Avis Benson, who had been friends of my parents way back on the family farm in Kennedy, Minnesota, back in the 30s. 40s. And he had on his business card when he was my sponsor in the 80s, it said, a bad day of fishing is still better than a good day at work. And so, Mandy, I think of your question, how do you know if your partner is the one for you? Is a bad day with your partner still better than a good day with anybody else? That's sort of and it's real simpleton stuff, right? And a little corny. But to me, the woman I've been with, it's the best relationship I've had for the longest time ever. And a bad day, bad week, bad month with her is still better than a great week, great month with anybody I've ever been with in my entire life. But what you're looking at, what the question needs to be is each day, is the amount that I'm investing in the emotional bank account of this relationship. are what you're investing and what I'm investing roughly in the same ballpark? Because there are going to be times in your relationship when you need to make large withdrawals from that emotional bank account, because maybe you had a family member die and you're in great need, or your partner is going to need your support and you're just love and isn't able to give back because maybe they just got a cancer diagnosis or whatever it might be. But there have been so many deposits made into that emotional bank account that you know that person loves you and cares about you and is busting their ass just as much as you love and care about them. And I guess I think about the words of my uncle, Erland Erlandsson. Yeah, we Swedes are quite creative with our names here in America. And he used a particular phrase that I like to use as it applies to a relationship. And that is, in my relationship, I can't outgive my girlfriend. I strive, but I can't outgive her. When I think about my 2 or 3 best friends in the whole world, Todd, Lisa, Louise, and Jay, I can't outgive them. They give in their ways, I give in my ways. But that's someone that I know gives a shit about me as much as I give a shit about them. And I want to invest more of myself into that person. Does your partner, Mandy, outgive you? Are you able to outgive that person consistently, regularly? Does the person give a shit enough in thought, word, and deed? Is a bad day with this person, a bad week with this person still better than a great week with anyone else? These are the questions, but there's got to be that mutual investment and giving a shit. Because if there's 2 complaints I have heard over the last 3.5 decades of counseling people, particularly from women in their, let's say, early 40s, who've been through the buzzsaw of life, okay? Maybe they've been married, divorced, whatever. I hear 2 things, particularly from women. One of them is, I'm tired of being strong. It's not that they can't be. It's just that they very well can be. You get tired. It's true of guys too. You get tired of being the strong one all the fucking time. It'd be nice to be able to relax. Or to have someone who can catch you and support you and who gives a shit. And that's the second thing that I hear from them is, I just want somebody who gives a shit, right? That's what we're all wanting. Someone who wants me, someone who actually cares about me, sees me for who I am and stays, finds it fantastic, just like I find them fantastic. Those are some good questions for orientation. All right. Next question is this. Her Heart on TikTok says, failure to launch 18-year-old boy coming from a background of abuse. How do I motivate him? That's a great question. And you are not the only one struggling with that. How do you motivate a failure to launch kid? And I always tell people, whether I'm dealing with adults or kids, is if you have dreams that you're not going after, if you have things that you want in life, or you're going after things, but you can't sustain the effort. Yeah, it starts and stops. I get excited, I start it, but then I don't finish. All right. Motivation problems. It is always because there's some blockage inside of you. Either the dream that you claim to want isn't what you really want, or you've got some voice inside of you that is dragging you down from the inside. So your son has something inside of him, a voice inside of him, pain inside of him, fears inside of him, bullshit beliefs he was taught about himself inside of him, which if you're growing up in abuse, I absolutely guarantee he has all of those. You can't motivate him in the presence of those. The weight inside of him, he's got hundreds of pounds of rocks in this giant burlap sack on his back. There's no rah-rah, there's no carrot that's going to motivate him through that. You want to do him a favor, help him get those rocks out of there. The pain, the fears, and the bullshit beliefs he was taught about himself. And you're like, how the fuck do I do that? That's what I'm teaching here. That's what my book is for. There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and my sequel that I'm writing now, but also the other book, the 366-day daily meditational, Badass Wisdom, Hole in My Love Cup. It's in a bunch of languages. It comes to the workbook, all of this, but also get the kid into fucking therapy. He's got so much pain inside of himself. He's got so much bullshit that he believes about himself. Probably that he's worthless. He's not wanted. He's not lovable. He doesn't matter. And until those messages come out of him, they're in him. He probably doesn't feel heard. Start listening rather than talking. Stop trying to motivate him. And I know that's counterintuitive to what you want, but it doesn't matter what you want. I got to believe what you really want is your boy to be healed. If he's coming out of a childhood of abuse, he's got so much inside of him that has to come out. And the fact that you want to motivate him, I understand you're trying to help him, but you have to ask yourself the question, how much of what's going on inside of you, how much of your desire to motivate him is for something because of you? Maybe because you feel like, you haven't done a good job as a parent, or you're embarrassed by it, or you feel guilty, or whatever it might be. And that shit you need to be working on your own. But your son has an immense amount of stuff inside of him that has to come out. It really does. And thank God that all you're dealing with right now is that he's failure to launch. Because if a person has that much pain, fear, and bullshit beliefs inside of them that they've been taught about themselves, if they have that much inside of them, it's only a matter of time. If that is allowed to stay there and fester before they turn to other mechanisms to escape that, right? Booze, pot, pills, gambling, cheating, overworking, overparenting, all those things, whether they are socially acceptable ones like overworking, or not socially acceptable ones like, pills, excessive pills, or excessive shopping to the point of running your finances into the ground, whatever it might be. So you're still getting a very important thing, failure to launch, but it's low level compared to how bad it's going to get if that shit is not nipped in the bud. So the boy needs to get that shit out of him, and you need to facilitate that. How do you do that? Get him to a therapist. Get him hooked on some of my small videos. Send him over to TikTok. Invite him to look. Tell him, get him counseling with me if you want. But at the very least, get him the audiobook version or the paperback version. But also, you need to start healing yourself. There's nothing that will transform your parenting more than transforming and healing your own past. And that'll enable you to be much more present, because at the very least, you can be that person that he begins feeling comfortable talking to, who's not going to try to fix him. Remember, children want to be heard, not fixed. All right, next question.
Grown-ups too.
Absolutely. Is that a metric you use in your life, Rob? Who listens?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is, and it was a hard-learned lesson that took way too long, but I'm glad I finally got the answer.
Good for you. Good for you. It's important because it makes us feel heard. It makes us feel seen. Like somebody gives a shit about me. It's not just about them, right?
Yeah, ask yourself when you get into a relationship, does this person need to be fixed, and am I going to give so much that I'm going to lose myself? That's a reason to head for the exit.
Amen. Right, over on Facebook, I've got Dizzle is saying this. The fucked up thing is I can't trust anymore, no matter how hard I try. Isolation 2.0. Yeah, and the mere fact that you're trying to trust says that you want to trust. It says you want connection. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying to trust, right? And there's nothing wrong with not being able to trust. No matter how hard I try, I can't. I literally can't, Sven. That's someone who has experienced a lot of pain, obviously. That's what you're saying, right? And because of that pain, I just can't trust. But again, the mere fact that you're trying says you want to. Something inside of you deeply wants to connect with other people, Dizzle. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying. It doesn't make sense. So then what's at the root of the trust is pain. At the root of the distrust is pain, and specifically the fear of experiencing more pain. Right. I can't trust. I won't open up again, because if I open up, I fear I'm going to get hurt again. So if you want to crack the trust nut, you have to go into the roots of my fears, your fears. What is it I'm really afraid of? And going to then, well, when did those pains occur in the past? Have you healed those, Dizzle? Have you gone in and flushed out the anger and the rage and the sorrow and the sadness? Or have you just been stuffing that shit down? If you're stuffing it down, then it's still inside of you. That's what's causing you to not be able to trust. It's that fear of that shit inside of you being triggered, being electrified, sparked by some new pain being dropped in. But the more you flush all of that out, the more greatly your fear reduces. And I love the audio, and I wish Rob had it on one of his magic buttons. The audio from Star Wars, I think it's Star Wars 1, when Obi-Wan is the old guy from the original Star Wars, and he's out on the Death Star, and he's like on this giant fucking towers high pylon tower of the power source of the Death Star, I believe, or something, and he pulls this giant lever, and you hear the power of the whole place go. That's what happens in terms of when you flush out all the shit. when you flush out the pain, the fears, and the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about you that are causing you to not be able to trust, is that anxiety level goes, the bottom drops out of the anxiety. You fear so much less and you're able to trust again. Why? If for no other reason, I know how to recover if I do trust. I'm not as afraid because all that pain from the past is out of me. And I'll just go slower this time and I'll take my time, et cetera, but I've gotten the pain out. All right, next question. All right, Rob, you going to get me that sound?
Sure. I'll pay for the rights to use it myself.
Oh, I didn't know we had to pay for rights for like 4 seconds.
I could fake it.
Well, yeah, we could.
I'll work on it.
You mimic it.
By the time this is edited, you may actually hear it in the show.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. But if not, it's okay.
Thank you. So here I am in the editing room. It's now a month later, and here's what Sven was looking for. It's actually much more impactful when he does it. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
All right, here we go. Meg from Canada says, my partner is avoiding taking care of a serious health issue. I am so frustrated. Well, Meg, first of all, what do we all know? Journal it out. You got to start flushing out all your frustration and anger. But you also have to be asking yourself beyond, well, what do I want him to do or her to do in this situation? My question to you that you also need to be journaling on is, what do you want to do? Now, mind you, I didn't say, what do you want to have happen? As if you're a passive player, and because your frustration is you feel like a passive player. That's the frustration. You can't get your partner to take care of their serious health issues. Clearly, they don't give a fuck. And you want them to give a fuck, which means in all likelihood, fear is being ginned up or conjured up inside of you. Anxiety over something. So you've got to drill down into your own frustration and your own anxiety, and anxiety is in what food group? The fear food group. So you have fear. I'm willing to bet on it. You have fear over this issue, and you've got to name what is it specifically that's causing fear. I fear being alone. I fear not having the financial working together with this person. Is it that I fear just that they won't be there for the kids? What is it in all of this that is the most frustrating part? Or if there is a fear, what is the fear? See, you're going into yourself. You're healing yourself. Right? Even if you can't get that person to change, you need to go into your own shit to find out what the hell is really going on inside of you. Second of all, you need to ask yourself the question, as I brought up, what do you most want to do in this situation? If you aren't passive, if you are, in fact, if there are actions you can take, what actions do you want to take that would be good for you? Leave the relationship, or distance yourself, or separate, or yell at the person, or what is it you need to do for you, even if it scares you? Now, you don't have to do it, but at least have the courage to name it, write it down, and then ask yourself the question, what's my fear in doing the very thing I most want to do? See, part of your frustration is that you feel like you have no say, you have no action you can take, when in fact, in all likelihood, you may very well. All right, next question. You got one, Rob?
It's a little bit longer, Sven, but I think it's worth discussing. And Jennifer is asking for a friend. And the friend has a 13-year-old daughter with her ex, but also a current boyfriend with whom she has 3 young daughters. And the boyfriend recently sexually assaulted the 13-year-old, essentially, stepdaughter. The friend is so lost and hurt. The assault happened. The boyfriend says he was drunk. Could there ever be any salvaging the relationship? But here's the important question that she asks after saying he was a seemingly good dad before this all came to light. Everyone's in shock. What advice is there for the kids, the 13-year-old who was assaulted and those 3 biological daughters?
I'm going to ask you a clarifying question, Rob. As you have the visuals inside you, I always do questions better when I have the visuals.
It's complicated.
Just so I'm clear, Rob, what fundamentally is the main question being asked here?
What advice is the best guide for the 13-year-old who was sexually assaulted? And I would add, and for the 3 daughters of this person who did the assault. They're the biological daughters, and the 13-year-old isn't.
And the man is the father of all 4?
No.
Step parent to the 13-year-old
Step-parent.
that he assaulted.
Yes.
Parent
And
to the other
parent
three.
to the other three.
Well, first of all, I think we know that this gentleman needs to be in prison.
right.
Fact. If no one has taken him to the law, you have to. There's just not even a question. Do you want to know why? Because if you don't, if that 13-year-old knows that no one's reported him, then everyone is fundamentally saying to the child, you don't matter. Suck it up, kiddo. Fuck you. It's not just that you have an obligation to all of humanity that this needs to be reported to the law, but you have an obligation, a moral, emotional obligation to that 13-year-old child. She has every right to be protected, and that she has every right to expect retribution and justice. Fact. He needs to be reported to the police. Fact. Just done deal. For the daughter, she needs to be in therapy. She needs to be in sexual assault therapy, rape, domestic incest therapy, the whole thing. Absolutely, unequivocally, non-negotiable.
It is in the hands of the law, says Jennifer.
Good. Check that box. Great. Jennifer, that child, that 13-year-old child, does not get a say in whether or not she's in therapy. If that 13-year-old child fell and broke her leg, would you ask her opinion if she wants to go to the doctor? No, you wouldn't. You'd say, get your butt in the car. You're going to the doctor. And when it comes to this shit, the difference between this shit and a broken leg, the broken leg's going to heal all by itself if it's set right. This shit ain't. Futures are determined right now. Decades of pain and fear and beliefs that she is being taught about herself right now are being forged by the actions of the parents, the friends of the parents, by their actions and by their non-actions. You have a moral obligation just as much as the parents because you know the story. How will you ever look a 13-year-old child in the face knowing you did not take every step in your power to help her heal? If the parents won't, you do it. You do it. Get her into fucking therapy. Let her school know. Talk to her, of course, but she doesn't get a say into whether or not she's going to be in counseling. She has to be in counseling. Fact. Professional. Specializing in exactly this. Now, there was another question in there that I want to hit, and that is, read it to me, Rob. I don't even want to try to wing it. Just give us the real question. Now, remind you folks, the person asking this, Jennifer, is asking for a friend.
Yes, and she's saying she 100% agrees, very powerful, and she's recording this for her friend.
Terrific,
Yep.
terrific.
Okay.
And so the other question that went with it was this one, and this is the one that makes my blood boil a little bit. Not at you, Jennifer.
Are you referring to, could there ever be any salvaging the relationship?
Could
Because that's in here.
Oh, I know. That was the one I was referring to.
Okay.
Now, I like to refer to everyone that follows me just playfully as the Peanut Gallery. And so I'm going to open this one up to all my peanuts. Is there any salvaging of this relationship presumably between the father who, just so I'm clear, so it's a man and a woman. They are married.
Mm-hmm.
She had
boyfriend.
Boyfriend. Okay. Boyfriend.
But the ex-husband, okay?
So the boyfriend didn't do this.
The boyfriend did it.
Mother of God, this is confusing.
The friend has a 13-year-old daughter with her ex, now living with the boyfriend, with whom she's had 3 kids.
daughter. So we got a woman who has a boyfriend. The boyfriend sexually molested her 13-year-old daughter.
Right, not his biological daughter.
Right, not his but he's a threat to all 4 of them.
Yes, exactly.
He's a threat and salvage the relationship. Forgive me, but for what possible reason, knowing that your children are in danger, why, forgive me for those who might be offended by my language, why, for the love of Christ, would you want a relationship with someone who molested your children? How would you ever look your children in the face. You will have, I can guarantee, not you, Jennifer, I know you're asking for a friend. You will have hell to pay when your child turns 20, 35, 41, 29, whatever the age, and they know the story, and they will learn the story that you went back with someone who molested their sister. You went back with someone, he sexually molests me, and you take him back? Are you such a pathetic person, Mom, that you put me back in harm's way? Why? And if you were my client, if your 13-year-old daughter, not yours, Jennifer, but your friend, if your 13-year-old daughter were my client, let's just say randomly when she's 23, 10 years from now, I would ask your 13-year-old daughter, if you were to speculate, what would you guess what your mom was so afraid of that she took back the very person who sexually molested her daughter? See, she's responsible for protecting her daughter, but she chose not to. She took the person back. What was likely the greatest fear driving your mother? Was it financial? Was it fear of him being mad at her? Fear of being alone? And she'll say, well, I can't possibly. I'll say, well, just speculate. You know your mom as well as anyone. Speculate. And she'll speculate. And she'll probably get pretty close, or she'll nail what it is. And it doesn't matter what she answers, because any of those reasons means mom chose herself over protecting her 13-year-old daughter. None of those answers justifies it. And the fact that he said, oh, I was drunk when I did it. Is anybody actually giving a shit what you were when you did it? It's one of those crimes that there's no excuse for. Salvaging the relationship. Mother of Christ. Your friend, Jennifer, needs therapy. Fact. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm an advocate of therapy. But the mere fact that she would consider it says that she feels so insignificant and afraid and alone as a person that she's willing to take back somebody so that she doesn't have to feel those feelings. And she's willing to do it at the express threat to her own progeny, her own daughters. That is someone exhibiting very, very poor judgment. And I'm not saying your friend is a bad person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying she's got so much pain inside of her that she's making really profoundly bad choices, or potentially bad choices. She needs someone to walk her through the healing process so that she can stand stronger, because she should never, ever take that person back for any reason. Because the message she has to convey to her daughter is, I got you no matter what. And I'm willing to face my own fears if that's what it takes, but I will protect you to the ends of the earth. Wow. What a question that was.
You know, these questions sometimes make me very emotional and on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
And that's a good question to have in the show. Doggone, it hurts.
Yeah, that was, Jennifer, that was a great question. You're a caring friend for caring about your friend, but gosh, that was powerful. And and that 13, as Caritas Studio is saying here on TikTok, is saying, that it needs to be conveyed to that daughter that it is not her fault, and conveyed to the mother that it's not her fault. If she didn't see signs, then this came out of nowhere. Now, if she saw signs, and it's like, whoa. But the bottom line is, it needs to be nipped in the bud now. This man needs to be out of those kids' lives. And the mother needs therapy, and that 13-year-old absolutely needs to be in a doctor's office.
Out of all 4 kids' lives, yes?
Yes. Oh, no. Yes. I'm sorry, I was unclear on that. And the Peanut Gallery has absolutely weighed in and said, hell no, don't take him back. Absolutely not. Hell no. Heck no. Hell no. Fuck no. Hell no. No. Hell no. Fuck no.
So you're saying there's a chance?
No.
I've got a boss is an asshole question, but we don't have, it's up to you.
No, I like boss is an asshole question. Give us the boss is an asshole question.
All right. This is from William on YouTube. Says, my new boss is an asshole.
Okay.
But the pay is good, and I got to work here for at least a while. How can I possibly cope?
How can you cope? First and biggest thing is on your lunch break, but definitely when you get home from work at night, before you go for the bottle and drink your problems away, or go for the gaming sticks and controls and start gaming your way all night, wasting your time and your energy. If you're deliberate, if you're serious about this question, William, get out the fucking pad of paper and a pen and write your boss a fucking letter every single night. Journal out how much you fucking hate this piece of shit. Write him in that letter that you never give to him, never send to him, all your rage, all your disappointment, all your frustration, how you want to, whatever. Everything. Put sand in his gas tank. Whatever it is you want to do. Don't do any of those things, but you got to flush out your feelings, because what's going to happen is all your feelings of rage and discontent and frustration are going to grow and fester. And it's going to get bigger and bigger. Emotions don't just magically go away. But if you take the steps necessary to flush them out, what happens? They don't possess you as much, which means you'll be able to hit your goal of staying at this job longer without it chewing you up inside. And you'll maybe even be able to stay longer than you thought. Why? Because your emotions aren't fucking killing you. You may even come to terms with it. You may actually, in a weird way, enjoy the fact that your boss is a dick. In a weird way, you may be able to. Why? It enables you to turn off work at the end of the day after you flush that shit out. You're not as worried about pleasing a boss. Imagine having a boss that you love and you're constantly wanting to please, right? Or constantly afraid of them yelling at you or whatever. And if you're no longer afraid and if you're no longer angry and you don't have an emotional tie to this boss, it enables you to sort of turn off work when work is done. So there could be upsides, and you should be journaling about that too. What's the possible upside of having this exact boss? Now, there's a brain teaser. All right, one more question, and then we are going to call it a happy day. I'm already calling it a happy day, but we're going to call it a happier day-er. Okay. Well, here's one. Oh, I get this one. This is a good one. Tammy on Facebook raises this question. Okay, so we got two siblings. Here's the setup, folks. Can two siblings be okay if one is no contact with an abusive, narcissistic father? One of them is no contact, which implies the other one is contact with the abusive, narcissistic father. Can we keep a relationship between the two of us, the siblings, if he still has a relationship with that piece of shit, knowing I don't want to lose him, but I will? In other words, so the way you're seeing it, if I'm hearing you correctly, Tammy, is for you, that is, you're wondering is if it's a deal breaker that your brother, it sounds like a brother, yeah, he still has a relationship with your dad. So is it a deal breaker for you? You want him to cut off contact with his father, and potentially you feel it's an insult to you that he hasn't because your dad is abusive and narcissistic. But the truth is this. One of the things I talk about in my book, there's a hole in my love cup, and this is going to piss some folks off, and it does. People really struggle with it when I talk about it in the book. Children love parents more than parents love children. Now, I know you're thinking, what a load of shit that is. I want to invert the equation or state it differently. A child will endure far more at the hands of a parent than a parent would ever endure at the hands of that same child or adult child. That it's not just about the feelings, that the actions that child is willing to convey. And if actions are an indicator of love, that child, that adult child, so longs to bond with that parent, so longs for that stamp of approval, so longs for the parent's love, that some people will endure all manner of shit. I have clients in their 50s, 60s, and 70s still tending to an aging parent when the other parents have, or the other siblings have gone away, cut off the parent a long time ago. And almost without exception, the one that is still taking care of them is the one that always did, who never got the approval that the other siblings got growing up. So what's my point? Am I saying that's a direct correlation to your situation? No. I'm saying it's somewhat of a parallel. And the parallel is this. Your brother, for whatever reason, is wanting that connection with his father. And the reason he wants it is because he is still longing for that father's approval, acceptance, approval, appreciation, affection, attention, acknowledgement of everything dad did, and or apology. He's wanting something. In all likelihood, it's some sort of confirmation of his worth. And you're saying, but what about what we went through? How can you do this to me? How can you leave me alone? You're basically saying that what he did to us is nothing. And he has a deeper need inside of him and a deeper fear inside of him. And the fear dwelling deep inside your brother is that if I don't get confirmation of worth from my dad, I don't have worth. Now, your brother doesn't know that's what he's doing, but that's what it is. I take people down this thread. We've done it on some of the counseling episodes of this show. What do you really want? What do you still want from your dad? Well, I don't want anything. And we dig down. Well, then what? Well, then if you got that, well, then what? Well, I want the relationship. Well, then what would you get out of that? And then what? And then what? And at the bottom of it, invariably, is always peace. Sense of acceptance that finally I'm okay. Finally, I can live my life my way. And so your brother is wanting that. And your brother is holding on, even knowing all of this. And he's putting up with it. And it may very well be you may end up being disappointed, not because your brother doesn't love you, but because he's so desperate to have his worth confirmed by the one person who took it away from him. That's some deep shit, right? This is fun. All right. I love these conversations. You guys have the best questions. You tickle my mind. And then I get all ticklish and googly inside, and I like it. Rob, any closing thoughts today?
Yeah, on the podcast, you are the executive producer, and I am the producer, and I am very glad that my boss is not an asshole.
Aw. And a collective aw went over the crowd.
I didn't hear a thing.
I did.
But William said that was a great answer about his boss. He tried festering in previous jobs. He didn't think about how it might be convenient to not have to like your boss.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't have to like him. And that festering, yeah, you made the exact point that when I allow that crud to build inside of me, rather than purging the wound, it just gets fucking worse, man. So there you go. I answered your own question on that one. Good job, William. All right, guys. This has been just a delight. I just want to keep taking questions all night. But alas, I have clients tomorrow. And so I got to get a good Betty by beauty sleep. You can tell I definitely need the beauty sleep. Rob doesn't. He got all the good looks in this outfit. And of course, KC.
Very poor judge of character and appearance there, sir. Okay.
I tell you, this has been just a super duper delight. I have enjoyed it very much. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you around the world, thank you to those of you who are live and giving your questions. To those of you around the world, on behalf of my team, KC over in the booth, Rob the Rocket sitting next to me, I'm Sven Erlandson. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.